Threading in Java. So Java threading, the concept which is basically popular is called multi-threading. So multi-threading is a Java feature that allows concurrent execution or simultaneous execution of two or more parts of a program for maximum utilization of the CPU or the central processing unit in your computer. And where each part of such program is called a thread. So threads are lightweight processes within a process. And each Java program that you have written already, those should have at least one thread. And here the Java virtual machine actually runs the program and creating the thread which is responsible for executing the main functionality of your program. So here the multi-threading or the threading can be created using two different mechanisms. So creation of the thread can be done in two separate ways. So first one, implementing the runnable interface. Second one is extending the thread class. So we are going to see the first one, creating the thread by implementing the runnable interface. So before going to the example, let me just first take you through the steps. So here, the thread creation is basically dependent on the implementation of the interface, and that interface is called runnable. So in the first step, we need to write a run function like this, which is provided by the runnable interface that we implement. And this method will provide an starting point of the thread. The next step is to instantiate the thread, and this is the way you have to instantiate it while creation of it. Next, okay, so here the runnable thread obj, this is the object or the instance of the class that implements the runnable interface, and here this is the thread name, the name of the thread. Then third step, to implement the run function that I shown you here in the run method. First step, the run method is supposed to be called by the start method inside the class. So let's see that through an example. Here, okay, let me just take you through the code over here just once, then we will emphasize on the output. So the class is implementing the runnable, two separate arguments, that is the thread. T is the argument for the thread, and for the name we are having another one variable. Runnable demo is the parameterized constructor of this class for assigning the name to the thread. This is our run method, and this run method is supposed to be invoked from the start method, and here is the start method. So to implement the start method, we need to call this member function start method, and where we are supposed to call it here. So inside the class thread implementing runnable to the main class, in the main function we are going to instantiate the runnable demo class, and it's created with having a call to the parameterized constructor with having the name of the thread, that is thread1. So when that is invoked, it calls this method, and when I run the code, let me just show you once. It should first display creating thread1 because of this statement which is executing in the beginning. Next, after instantiating this, the start method is supposed to be called for the R1 object, and it invokes the start method over here, the public start method of this class. So there it should display starting, and here the thread name is 1, so that is why starting thread 1 is printed over here. Now next, when we have a valid thread, so it's not equal to null. Okay, so sorry, that T is actually initially null. So as it's null, so the new thread is created, and it will implement the start method. And which start method it will implement? Actually, when we call the start method through the object, it actually executes automatically. It invokes the run method over here. The start method is directly linked to the run method. So now the thread 1 will keep on continuing or executing all the statements inside the run method. But by the time as we are reading about threading, so automatically if we have multiple threads in our code, so no, the next thread or the second thread cannot be stopped. So while it is executing the start method, the same point of time the arc2 will be created, that is for thread 2, and it would have executed this runnable demo, and by printing creating thread 2 in the output. In the same way, it will also call the start method, and which will invoke the starting thread 2 name. um, Yes, here it is. And then while it was keep going on calling the start method and then run method inside this, at the same point of time, the thread 1 will do its work in the run method. Running the first thread name, so it will first go on like this. So running first thread, second thread, then thread 2, 1 will keep on rotating and then do their own version of the run method. So that is why each time when you run your code, it will give you different outputs. That means what? So simultaneously, both of the threads inside the main class, they are performing their work. They are completing their work. That's why each time you run the code, it will give you a separate set of output, because both of the threads are running consecutively at the same point of time. That is your runnable interface. Then next, here the next process is to create the thread by extending the thread class. So what is this? Here we do have a same run method, but the syntax is a little bit different. As you see here, the class name is extending the thread class. So rather than implementing runnable interface, it has to extend the thread class. And then it has a start method. Let me show you this example. This is the program for extending the thread class. Here the class is supposed to extend the thread, two arguments, thread demo parameterized constructor, the run method. Both of the examples are basically same, and again the start method, which will be called from the main method. Okay, that's basically the same thing. So when I call the code, when I run the code, what it does, first T1 is created for the thread 1. So while creation, it will go on here and execute this statement inside the parameterized constructor. After that, it has a start method. So the start method will invoke the public member function here. So inside the start method, it has the member function start, which will invoke automatically the run method. But as both of the threads, that is your T1, T2, are created and completing their activities or functionalities on their own at the same point of time, so we will have a mixed set of statements. So what does it mean? So 1 and 2, thread 1 and 2 are performing their work at the same point of time. So both of the examples doing basically the same thing, but the syntax is a little bit different here. Thread demo is extending the thread class, but in the previous example that I just shown you, so there the thread demo class was implementing the runnable interface. This is how the threads can be created.